Hi there, everybody. Welcome to your first panel of the morning. This is going to be our panel on cool jobs. I'm told there's another one tomorrow, so we're going to have double dipping of people with cool jobs. I'm glad to be here with you today. My name is Adam Peterson. A little bit about me. I'm a director of supply chain transformation at Microsoft, which is a big fancy title for saying I help our sourcing people do their work better and improve their processes. And these sourcing people do the hardware that's required to run our servers. So stuff like Outlook and Xbox gaming and AI and all those things. So we build the hardware that makes all that possible. Before I worked at Microsoft, I was a management consultant for a big consulting firm where I would talk with all sorts of name brand companies and help them to work with their supply chains and their manufacturing environments. Before that, I was also then at an aerospace company working on jet airplanes, and having a job that you have to walk through a jet airplane factory every day is kind of a cool thing. You can get a little bit of that here at our friends at Boeing, but we had the military aircraft, so those are ones that shoot down other aircraft. So there was a bit of a cool factor there as well. One thing that stayed true throughout all of those is that strong communication skills, while I'm not in a communication career, I use them every day, all the time, and would not have been successful without the skills that I learned here, because I was also a student here at Murrow from 2002 is when I graduated. And so I'm just one example of many for what kind of a career you can go with having a Murrow degree. So today is all about exploring the full types of opportunities, where your career can go, all the twists and turns that will happen. We'll hear about all sorts of careers. So we might think about journalism or PR or advertising, maybe social media management. Those are all the ones that we might hear about, but there's so many more, and a lot of things are possible. So today we're going to head and try to answer some of the big questions, like what's possible? What makes a cool job even cool? Where can these things take you? Joining me today are Murrow graduates from a wide variety of careers, and you'll hear how they've done with their detours and the twists and turns of their careers as well. And that's going to be part of the fun we're going to try to have today. We're going to connect the dots about where we're going to go, how we're going to get there, and the skills that we learn along the way. So let's get started. Let's see, switching my notes. All right, so I'm going to introduce the three here. We'll hear their stories here in a second, but I'll just go ahead and do the quick introductions. So Kyle here graduated from Murrow in 2011 with a journalism degree that he was destined to misuse. It's a strong start there. Instead of chasing serious newspaper work, Kyle followed his passions, writing for magazines about fast cars, interesting people, and the moments that stir our imagination. He's been published in Esquire, Car and Driver, Bicycling, Road and Track, Men's Health, and many, many more. He is currently the executive editor of car reviews site Motor One. That's Amoje, did I get that right?
Amoje.
Sorry.
You got it.
Amoje, yes. Amoje graduated from Murrow in 2019 with a degree in communication. He is currently the business development director at Degrees of Change, a nonprofit in Tacoma that serves homegrown leaders through college to career pathways to create more vibrant and equitable communities. He supports diverse local college students through paid internships by building relationships with and connecting them to top local employers who value enfranchising the next generation of our workforce. That's Amoje. Sara is an associate public relations manager at the Pokémon company, where she supports initiatives and campaigns, including video games, mobile products, and competitive play programs. She is a 2019 Murrow graduate with a degree in strategic communication and a focus in public relations. So let's go ahead and get things kicked off here, and let's talk about our journeys, what the overall shape of our careers have been. So I'm going to start here with Kyle, and then we'll go down the line here. Tell me about your journey, and specifically, what was that moment that you realized there had the cool factor to your job?
I feel like in your career, there's never a straight path. There's not always, once you get out into the world, like, if you're in communications, you're not a doctor, right? There's not like a degree you go get, and then there's a process after the degree where they place you in a hospital to work for a little while. It's, you're out in the woods, and so you have to kind of cut your way through. But at least for me, there was always like an end point. There was a dream that I had to work for the magazine that I ended up working for, and so even though my path deviated considerably, like I was working in video games, I was working in like doing physics tuning for a game engine, like there was always, you know, the shining beacon on the hill that I could work my way toward. And I'm lucky to get to kind of reaffirm my cool job status, I guess, pretty much on a monthly basis. I'm doing the thing I'm most passionate about in the world, which is like screwing around with cars and getting paid to do it. So yeah, it's like if you have a dream to do something for work, I promise you can get there, and it's important to tell yourself that. And then when you're in that position, the dream just gets reaffirmed. Like every month you'll have a moment where you get to go like, this is what I was meant to do. So yeah, just go for it, I would say. How about you guys?
Yeah. How y'all doing this morning? Good. Y'all good? Yeah, come on. For myself, I think the cool factor for me was when I started my journey, we were just talking about this a little earlier, this was when the pandemic hit, is when I started my career, and it has not been a linear path throughout that time. The cool factor about my role now is I get to assist, edify, and put on young people, young diverse local college students, and diversity, you know, has been co-opted, that word, but it means so much more than just your ethnicity or what your skin color looks like, right? It's your educational experience, your background, the culture that you come from, right? How you embody and envision yourself, right? So that's the cool piece of that, and it's really cool because I was that student when I graduated in 2019. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have an internship lined up. I was on my grandma's couch for 8 months, like real talk. And
shout out grandma.
For sure, always. And throughout that process, I was literally using the skill tree that I developed from Murrow, obviously, my own experience, and then of course the work experiences that I had all the way in between that. And so, and I get to, within my role it's still molding and developing, and I have the ability to structure my role how I want to in the work that I do. So the cool factors are I get to assist young students who are like myself getting internships and professional experience while also being able to shape my role and then my career, because it's not over. Lord willing, it's not over. And I'm going to continue to shape that and mold that how I want to. So you're in more control than you know, and there are a lot of external factors that are at play when it comes to developing your career. But if you utilize the skills that you have, develop your skill tree, and then find opportunities and find your way through, you'll get where you need to go. So that would be the cool factor for myself.
So my journey begins where you all are sitting right now. Symposium 2019, I was able to network and I got my first job, internship at Festivals Incorporated, which put on the Bite of Seattle and Taste of Tacoma. And with that experience, I got a lot of experience with both public relations and event planning, which are two of my big interests. And when I moved on from that internship, I was just clamoring and like chomping at the bit to get any job I really could, and applying like one job every single day, I remember. And then Edelman, they had a position open up on their Xbox account. And I don't know two things about video games, especially back then. Like, you can come and ask me about Monster Hunter and GTA 6. I'm not gonna know much about what you're talking about. I'm so sorry to disappoint. But I saw the beauty in pursuing this company in this industry that maybe I was kind of a fish out of water in, and I got the role at Xbox, well, not at Xbox, but at Edelman in partnership with Xbox, where I was able to work on a myriad of different games. Halo Infinite, which I do know a lot about, and Microsoft Flight Simulator, and pretty much everything in between. And with all of that experience, I saw that the role opened up at the Pokémon company, and I was lucky enough, especially with a lot of the connections that I made through my 5-6 year journey, I was able to secure the role. And the cool factor for me, if I can sound a little bit cheesy here, is just ever since I picked up a Game Boy when I was a kid, like, I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I didn't have imaginary friends like I had Pokemon. Like, I had imaginary Mudkip and Vulpix that I ran around with at recess. And being able, obviously my imagination isn't really with me and that vivid, but that brand really like has pushed me to stay curious. And today, I still very much feel that way. I still feel that magic, and if I get to bring that joy to kids, their parents, and so on, that's the coolest thing to me.
Excellent. Let's go on to the types of skill sets that help us with navigating that journey. And so, Sara, I'll point this next question in your direction. What skills have you found that have been incredibly valuable for, and maybe ones that have been unexpectedly useful?
Yes, especially in gaming PR. I mean, PR, you're going to have to wear a lot of hats. I feel like when you're in a classroom, it's writing press releases, it's learning how to make media lists, but especially with gaming and entertainment PR, you're going to have to wear a lot of hats, whether that be event planning, managing external media comms, managing internal strategy. There's so many hats, and just like limiting my job to just PR sometimes is like, truly I'm marketing, sometimes I'm social, sometimes like it's all over the place. And so to answer your question, I would say that it's just learning how to be nimble in the outside world is really
Absolutely
something to learn.
So Amoje, I'm going to turn the next one to you. In your opinion, what's the most essential skills, either hard skills or soft skills, for success in career?
Oh man,
That's a big list.
So you lobbed me up a tough question right
Just
there.
one.
Just the one.
One.
No, as many as you like.
I would say the ability to build relationships with people. I know that that's something that sounds maybe cliche, but it's so important. And relationship looks so different depending on the role that you're in. And so for me with business development, like that's all my job is building relationships with not only funders, but potential employer partners, students, much to Sara's point, like I am in so many other roles than just that. But building relationships, knowing how you speak to people or what they care about and how to present that information to them, but also not doing things in a performative aspect, right? Like just building relationships for a specific result from somebody, but to really understand the individual or the service or the company or organization that you're working with, at least in my specific role, or just to understand like who you're talking to, right? Like I'm also students facing as well. And so their dreams or the things that they want to do are very important to me. So it's about learning the individual, learning how you can connect and provide them to opportunity, and what can you learn from them too. And I'm in a constant state of learning and growth. I've been uncomfortable as hell in this role in a good way, because building relationships was not a skill that I had when I was here, right? Like much of my instincts were about, me growing up was about survival, just to keep it real. And so building relationships wasn't a skill that I had flexed, and now I'm able to flex that every day and build on top of that. And it's got me to a space where I'm really not only proud of myself, but proud of what I've been able to accomplish with my teams and everything. And so building relationships is super important, and that starts with building a relationship with yourself, which that's a whole nother panel for another day. But that's super important, for real.
Yeah, I would echo the same thing. I don't really know how to follow that up other than saying, be vulnerable in your communication with other people and have empathy for other people. Don't project, if you don't know something, don't pretend that you know something. People are going to respond to you in a much more honest and giving way if you are just vulnerable with them and you say like, I don't know how this works, can you explain that to me? And it could be something that you're actually already an expert on, but in order to share with other people, in order to learn from other people, that's an absolutely essential skill, is to just put yourself on ground level and say like, let's start from here and I'm going to ask you about this thing and then we're going to come to consensus. So I think like, just to echo what you were saying, like vulnerability, empathy, and curiosity are all bedfellows.
So I've got one that might feel like it's the exact opposite of what Kyle just said, but it's actually not. And that is it might just be up to you. And so if the decision that you need to make is up to you, even if you might not have experience or complete knowledge of the topic, being able to say, if this were up to me, I think this is probably the right answer. Because guess what? It probably is the right answer. And so having the confidence, even in the lack of knowledge that you might have, is still an exceptionally good skill and sort of the counterbalance to the honesty and transparency that Kyle just said. Yeah. Are any of these skills different than they were when you graduated, Kyle?
You know, I don't think they are. I think fundamentally across all communication careers, you have to be an empathetic person. You have to be a curious person. I don't think that changes. Even as my role has changed, I've gone from being purely a writer, where you have to have a certain kind of curiosity to write, and to write at a high level, and you have to be willing to place yourself in uncomfortable situations. And now I'm in more of a managerial role, and you still have to have that empathy. You still have to have curiosity. You learn that everybody else who you work with are dealing with their own problems in their personal life, and so again, having that empathy, having the curiosity to go like, hey, what's going on? I noticed X, Y, and Z wasn't, going well for you today. Like, how can I help? So I think there are probably different ways to apply a base set of skills, but you're learning all of those things here. Like, if you apply yourself at this university, you have the things that you need. Like, I'm confident all of you can go out into the workforce and like make an impact. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about like, oh, I have to be on this new social media platform. Like, that's the key to getting a good job, having a fulfilling career. Like, it's really just those basic things that you're learning now that will sustain you for your life and your career, I think.
Here's a slightly less loaded question. Are internships, volunteer work, or specific projects important?
Are internships important?
Yeah, because they were not required when I was here, and I did not have one. Here's a tip: don't not have one. Anyway, go for it.
Bia, you got the right person to talk about this. Internships are super important, important. And I don't just say that because I support interns. I know that from practical experience of being an intern while at WSU in multiple roles is super important because, again, it prepares you or shows or demonstrates your ability to be productive towards, work towards, or produce work that is essential to a current company, organization, or business, and is also a way for you to demonstrate your abilities or skills in order to land a full-time position, if that's your role, part-time, whatever it is that you're really looking for. But it's a great introduction into your career. It's not 100% necessary, right? Like, you'll find your opportunities in different ways. This could be from who you know to potential apprenticeships. Maybe this is like a fellowship opportunity, right? So it doesn't have to necessarily just be internships. There are many different ways for you to start your career, get to where you need to go. It's just about identifying what opportunity is best for you. And I found that internships are the best way or best vehicle for you to enter into your career. So, I could give you the stats behind it, but we're communication students here, so we don't really worry too much about the numbers. You know what I'm saying? The words is what's important. You know what I mean? But no, I was playing. But yes, they're crucial, and I know that from my experience personally. When I graduated in 2019, I think an internship would have been a great way for me to leverage getting into my career a lot earlier. But I'm not mad or upset about my journey. I think my journey was beautiful, and I'm glad that I got to this space. And again, it's about identifying what opportunity is for you. But I would definitely, if you're talking to somebody about internships, this is your guy for sure when it comes to that. So yeah.
Yeah, to touch on that, in what I was saying earlier with my journey, like, it was really the first domino that kick-started the rest of my career. And the PR world, I mean, I'm not sure if this is said in classrooms, but like, from my perspective, like, the PR world is very, very small. And the gaming industry is even more compact. And just every single connection that you make, every single person that you work for, every single opportunity is a chance to connect and build trust, and also just be a human with other people, and that will serve you long-term no matter where you go.
Yeah, I think just to put a different spin on it too, internship can also look a lot like mentorship. I didn't have a structure. This is kind of what I was getting at earlier with, like, we're not doctors. Like, there's not always going to be, like, in the career that you want to be in, an internship. That certainly wasn't available for where I wanted to go. But what I did find along the way were mentors who, when you're in an internship, you will get mentorship. But also keep your eyes out for people who are in the positions that you want to be. I've found more often than not, if I go to them and say, like, hey, I don't understand how to do X, Y, and Z, or would you do an edit on a piece that I wrote about this thing that I don't know very much about? People are so eager to give back what they've received. So just like, I reach out to people on Instagram, like, once a week, just in that things that I'm curious about. It's like it can be that easy. If there's somebody who you think is like untouchable, they're the absolute apex of the career, I would bet you money if you reached out to them in earnest, they will get back to you and like offer you some form of mentorship. So just like always keep your eyes open for people who are willing to help, and more importantly, reach out to those people because they will help you.
Sara, I've got another question for you. How do you stay up with the latest trends and skills that need to be happening in your world?
My methods might be a bit unorthodox, but bear with me. I have a Twitter, and on this fake Twitter or fake Blue Sky, I have both. I follow all the outlets, all industry leaders, everybody that I look up to, and it's completely separate from my personal. And every morning I'll go and I'll just scroll in these easily digestible blurbs for about like 5 to 10 minutes every single morning. Mm-hmm. I'm also subscribed to this newsletter known as the Daily Skim. And similar, it's these really digestible blurbs of just what's going on with the world news. And just with both of those platforms, I feel pretty in the know and up to date, or as well as I can, both inside of my industry and broader.
Anybody else have skills or trends that you got to keep up with?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Google Alerts has always been kind of like my go-to, specifically for my industry. I get into the minutia of it too, like business development and nonprofit or sponsorships for blank type of nonprofit, or something like very broad, right? Like happening in Tacoma, some of those things. So for me, I'm much more having much more of a local presence, but also you need to have that worldview as well, or what's happening in your state or your local province. I know we're in the States, so we don't talk about provinces, but what I mean, y'all get what I'm saying. And so yeah, I think I'm staying attuned, but also being in community too. So making sure that I'm physically in the presence of people that I want to connect with deeper, or that I'm curious about too. So it's kind of like a multi-method approach for me. It's like being in tune and in person when I can, but also understand what's happening in my local community, and then what is also enforcing or driving the changes in my local community too, from a broader aspect too.
Yeah, I think just to follow up on that, that's a really good point about like being in the community and talking with the people who you want to build community and work with, I think is really important. I'm a naturally very introverted person. Oh, sorry.
Close to the mic.
I need to be down here. Yeah, I'm a naturally very introverted person, so it doesn't lend itself to like ingratiating myself with the people who I should be doing that with. But again, back to the sort of like hard journalism skills and curiosity, like that's where you can keep up on current events, and because I work in news and writing and publishing, we have to be ahead of the curve a lot of the times, and so that's where you get ideas, is from communicating with other people, from knowing your subject matter and being up to your neck in it, so that you can't help but just reach out and find 5 different things to write about that day. So yeah, just being a part of the world you want to be in, like you can't be separated from it. You have to be obsessed by and in love with the thing that you are trying to do with your life, and that sounds probably more dramatic than it needs to be, but like the deeper you are into it, the easier it all comes.
So I completely echo all of that, and one thing that I found that was a surprising thing was when I was laid off from my job during COVID, because the business decided to shrink by quite a bit, and so I had to figure out how am I going to present myself not as an employee of my previous firm, but as a person that's worth hiring. So the Google Alerts is a fantastic tool. You can put in very specific search terms in there in a very specific time frame. So give me news in my area supply chain of things that happened in the last 7 days. And then I started grabbing those, writing like a paragraph or 2 of explanation or insight that I have, and then posting daily to LinkedIn. And that leads to people knowing me as a voice on the platform, in addition to a person with a career and hireable skills. And so that leads to opportunities that you can follow up with networking. It's one of those things, like it's not all that difficult, and it's pretty darn free as well. So All right, let's move on to another topic about how work and life come together, what makes it meaningful. And so, Amoje, I'm going to start with you on this one. In your experience, what makes the types of jobs you like really exciting and fulfilling?
It's a great question. That's changed since the pandemic and when I really started my career. I think it's an innumerable list, I'll be honest, but I'll shorten it. I think number one, providing some sort of work-life balance. So is there some separation that I can have when I clock out? Because I'm a clock out for the day. I'm not gonna be obsessed with my job, right? And that's just not how I live or want to be. And there is room and opportunity for that. And when I'm in those lines, I say, quote unquote, when I'm in work, I'm there, I'm tapped in, I'm engaged. But I need to have some sort of separation because I have a life outside of my work, and I don't want work to be my life. So that's important. It's also important for me to have some sort of connection to the work beyond my own personal connection. And typically in nonprofit, which I have a lot of experience in, I am in some shape, way, or form the audience that I'm now serving through this work. And so that's important, but also, is there something I'm connected to within this issue? Is there like opportunity for me to grow and exist and to be creative, but for me to also innovate while maintaining the tenets or the things that make like this work meaningful or impactful. So those are just a few of those things that make it fulfilling and worthwhile. But I noticed that as I grow in my career, and I grow my competencies and my confidence in myself and what I'm able to do, that gives me further separation outside of the work to develop myself as an individual, as a person, because that's just, if not, actually that's more important to me, to develop yourself as a person than it is in your career, because I think that they kind of like, there's a balance or a symbiotic relationship that you have when you grow in your career and as an individual. But those are the things that stand out to me.
Can I follow up on one thing? You said creativity. Tell me a little bit more about how creativity express itself in your day-to-day, especially as how you feel like you can be giving of yourself and your creativity into what you're working on.
Yeah, I like as I mentioned before, I run a program called Seed Internships, and so creativity in terms of like how we do our process. It's a crazy process that we do. It's pretty much like a year round full of recruitment, matching to employers, conducting our internship program, and then we start all over again. So it's pretty much like a year-round thing. So creativity in like how can we switch up this process to give ourselves more space and room to breathe throughout the year, so we're not constantly on just this spin cycle when it comes to this program, as impactful as it is. Creativity in how we shape our work, right? We're a 32-hour work week organization, so I have an extra day to myself, and you feel me? I'm keeping that day.
You guys hiring? Or?
We might. I got you. I got my card. Got my cards on me. But that's important. But creativity and just how I'm able to shape how we do our work, how we conduct our work, how our program looks, in order to provide ourselves more space, more opportunity, or to create for, especially the interns too, which is constantly on our minds all the time. So that's what I feel like creativity infused in the role can look like.
Sara, I want to ask you about work-life balance. How does that help with the fulfillment factor at the job?
Work-life balance is hard, and I'd be lying if I said that you all probably aren't going to have issues with it at some point. I think it's important to, like you were saying, like set boundaries, and like you will work within that period. I mean, obviously it'll get a little bit hectic because there's certain like, title launches or events that I'm planning or things where it's like you kind of got to go all in. But working at 100% all of the time, you are going to burn out. And I'm now learning, and I mean, this might not sound great, but like working 75 or 65, and then when things amp up, then shooting your way up. But it's just, you've got to take care of yourself and know that with any job that you take, it as much as you are working for them as they should be working for and choosing you. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
I'm going to echo a little bit of what Amoje said earlier as well, and my version of this one is actually going to the office. And so my work is at the office. I go into Redmond, I leave my house, I go to where the work is at, and then at the end of the day, I get to leave work and go back to where the work isn't, which is life. And so that works out very well for me. And I've noticed that probably a third or half of my colleagues have a similar kind of story with why go in if you can do your work remotely. And so for me, work-life balance is a big reason on why I get myself into the office. So. Kyle, I'm going to ask you another one on sort of meaningfulness at work. Collaboration and working with colleagues, both like maybe that you're part of your day-to-day or maybe outside of your day-to-day.
Yeah, that's every day. Every day is collaboration in publishing. Every day you're relying on people and they're relying on you to keep the flow churning. When you're getting your Google alerts, that's coming from news desks like the one that I work at. And so, yeah, it's the most important facet of a career in communications. You're going to run into a lot of people who have different communication styles than you do. You're going to run into extremely rude people. You're going to run into people on the other end of the spectrum that you get along really well with. But it's important to work through problems and use communication outside of the outside of the professional setting in a professional setting. And so that means like you also have to communicate with people on a human level in the workplace, and that's the only way you can collaborate successfully. You have to have trust and open lines of communication with anybody who you're working with.
Anybody else on collaboration?
Yes, especially with my job, there's a lot of internal and external parties that you're going to have to work with, and partners, which I guess falls into external. But yeah, it's just really important, and I mean, it feels a little bit redundant to say that communication is one of the most important parts about working in communication. But
still true.
Yes, it is. You got to be transparent, know your stuff, and kind of like looping it back to earlier. Don't be afraid to say like, I don't know, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, asking for help is a surprisingly difficult skill to make, and I think it needs to be thought of as a skill, not just an action you can do. Like how to ask for help, when to ask for help, how to ask for help without saying that I'm now not available to do this work myself, because that can feel like what it means when you need help. But yeah, figuring out when and how to ask help is definitely a skill to practice, a skill to work on.
I actually think just like one more point I really want to make is communicating well is a really difficult skill. It's not something that is necessarily inherent to being a person, and you'll find in your career, if you can communicate well, you can literally do anything. Like, again, going back to, I got my pre-med, I was going to be a doctor, I thought I was going to be a doctor, and then ended up writing, and so this is why I keep going back to the doctor thing. But like, what's the difference between a good doctor and a great doctor? It's all communication, right? It's their ability to get answers out of a patient that they need, to make people comfortable so that they can make the correct diagnosis. And applying that to a communication career, like even when you get a communication degree, it doesn't make you a good communicator. It's something that you have to really practice at, and it's something that will set you apart in literally any career. If you can write competently, if you can communicate effectively, that will always place you at an advantage over anybody else in any other profession, because it's so critical. It sounds almost so simplistic that it's dumb. Again, like Sara, like you were saying, like talking about being a good communicator in a thing where we're all talking about communication is just like sort of twisting my brain into a pretzel. But like practice at it, become a good communicator. You can do absolutely anything you want to do.
So there's several cliches about how careers are journeys, and to think of them as such. They're not the destination. Pick your version of that cliche. But let's talk a little bit about the evolution that happens. And I'm going to start off by saying, would your Murrow student self be surprised at where you find yourself now? Kyle, let's go ahead and start with you. You should start nodding a little bit more aggressively than the others.
I don't think so, actually. I had, from the time I was very young, I had a dream to work at Road and Track magazine, which is where I ended up working for 8 years. The way that I got there was not the path that I expected to take, but I think also it's important to understand that you might hit career goals, and unless you retire with that company, which we're not working at IBM in 1957, there's no pensions anymore. It's like you're gonna go different places. Your career will take you places even beyond your wildest dreams, and it's important to constantly reassess what your career means to you, what your work means to you, and to understand that there is probably going to be another step along the path, right? And it might take you surprising places. It might take some effort to get there, but you always have to kind of keep your eyes open, because even after you think you've made it, like I got to Road and Track magazine and thought, like, this is it. I could just be here forever. Turns out that wasn't the case. I left, and I chose to leave because I saw another opportunity that was really exciting. And if you had told me that not only would I get to Road and Track, but leave it as an undergrad, that's the thing I probably wouldn't have believed.
Mm-hmm. Sara, you were talking over here before we started about that Pokémon might have been a target company or dream company or something like that. Did you have a clear plan on how to get there, or was this more following the opportunities as they arose?
Weirdly enough, I feel like I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm at where I'm at, it makes sense, and the journey getting there has been amazing. Not always according to plan, though. I started my internship working for the Xbox account at Edelman in, I want to say, September of 2019. I started full-time December 2019, and then the pandemic hit a couple months later. My best friend and I actually moved into our first apartment, and a month later, the whole world blew up. And I just had this in my head. I was going to be living this glamorous public relations life. I was going to be traveling. I was going to be rubbing elbows with all these people, and especially with working international PR, which I did for the first 5 years of my career. And that was not my journey. The pandemic completely shut down everything. I remember that same roommate and I went to Cary Park, and literally, like, Seattle was like blacked out, and we were just, it was so melodramatic. We were crying. We were just like, what does this mean for everything? And the whole industry, I think, like, for a few years, at least for me, completely changed. It was all digital. It was all just so beyond chaotic of how are we going to make preview events for these games? How are media going to play these titles? How are they going to review? How are we going to make this all happen digitally? But we made it work, and I think now, in the past few years, or maybe it's just my role change, we're finally climbing out of it and able to kind of do this beautiful blend, I think, of in-person and digital. So all in all, definitely not according to plan, but happy I'm here.
Yeah. Amoje, did you have any career evolutions as well along your journey?
All the time. All the time. For me, like, I think what really drew me to Murrow, and WSU specifically, is that communication, though there was definitely specific paths, whether that was journalism or TV, there was just so much opportunity for me to make my career what I wanted it to be. For me, I didn't have a specific track of what I wanted to do. There were things I thought would be cool, like it'd be cool to host a radio show on Apple Music. That'd be dope. When I'm in KUGR radio, 10 to 12 at night, and hosting my radio show in my sophomore year, I'm like, that'd be tight. That'd be dope. And then as things shift, or as things change, or I see that things beyond music are very important to me, though still very important, I think I just wanted the ability to move, if not fluidly, at least semi-fluidly throughout my career, or have the ability to, switch careers however I needed to, given my skills. So I don't think my young Murrow self would be surprised at all. I think I accomplished the mission that I was supposed to do. And now I think that I have even greater opportunity to transition or shift my career however I want to. And that's the most important piece, and I think that that's something that you should all really take heed to, is that these skills will provide you so much opportunity to be impactful in so many different ways. And even if it's not necessarily clear, again, like I said earlier, look out for those opportunities in order to put yourself in that position. And to your point, right, like I went from a mentor of 4 to 7 year olds to a social media manager to an event planner for folks who need like resources, right, to a career advisor, to now I'm a business development director. And I promise you, within the next 10, Lord willing, like I'm gonna have like probably 5 to 6 more jobs in between this time. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Like, that's what's just gonna happen. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with staying in a role. I think if you find your role, dope. For me, I just know that I want to constantly pursue and grow in different ways. And so my career is going to look however it is going to look. And I think by the end of it, I'm going to be definitely satisfied. And so I'm speaking that into existence. So that's a long-winded way of saying that, like, my career is mine. I can make it whatever I want to. And even if you don't see a path forward or like what that next step is, just look out for that opportunity. And if it matches for you, it's going to happen. So that's
I like what you said. Put your place in a position where you can say yes to the opportunities when they arrive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be ready to do that, and your career can change, and sometimes it might change in the course of a single day, because I know that's happened to me a couple of times as well. So we got a little bit of time left. I'm curious if anybody in the audience has questions. We'll open it up to questions. All right, right up front. You were so very fast.
No microphone, right? Okay.
No microphone.
So we mentioned work-life balance, and that seems really important to all three of you. One thing that is really common amongst this group of people, and was really common for you all when you were here, but I think has even advanced more since you all graduated, is that the students in this room are involved in numerous things along with school. And so it's not just work-life balance, it's just balance in life in general. Outside of your roles, what is it that you do that you're passionate about that keeps you learning and growing as an individual?
I love reading. I recently took it up this past year. I feel like it keeps me grounded and also helps me like learn new things and keep up to date with vocabulary. And I also think it's really important to move your body in any which way. I don't like running, but I do it. It helps me feel good, better after the fact. And those are probably some of the biggest things for me. And also making fun for social time with like friends and your family. That always helps me recharge and feel better.
Yeah. For myself, I would say moving your body for sure. My wife back there is a Pilates instructor, and so she keeps me engaged, keeps me you know what I mean? Like, she's nice with it, so she keeps me, tapped in, locked in. But also, I'm a videographer as well, so I do a lot of video, put together like mixes with video and stuff like that, and just really talking about my experience of growth, whether it be in my personal life, which is really what I focus on, or just how I work through, being an adult in this world. Or, I am an adult for sure, but I feel like I'm constantly growing into being an adult. I feel like I'm a young adult. Well, yeah. Anyway, yep. So
Old man.
y'all hear it.
Old man.
So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. I have a son who's 1.5 years old now, so pretty much not a lot of personal time or time outside of work to like do the things that I want to do, but chasing him around is like pretty much the joy of my life. So I love that. But when I do have time, I think, I don't know if any of you are wired the same way that I am. Like, I'm a very obsessive person, and so cars growing up were my obsession. And when I made that my career, the two just bled into one another, and it made me fall out of love with cars in general to a certain degree. And so I think you do have to find a way to separate your work, even if that is your obsession, and kind of compartmentalize that. Now I'm really into like road cycling, like biking. So yeah, I dress up in some pretty embarrassing spandex and go out and people honk at me. And yeah, that's kind of what I do for fun, but mostly it's just like chasing a toddler around.
All right, was there a question over here? Yeah, you.
My question is kind of specifically for Kyle, just because it was touched upon. Sorry, I'm like also over here hiding. What specifically would you tell someone who wants to take that leap into their specific dream job, specifically in today's market when it's just in general like hard to get a job or an internship?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I can only speak to that as like a writer and an editor. I think the way to do that now probably is just to write, is just to do the thing that you want to do. There are so many tools. Obviously it's great if you can get into an internship and have a bit more of a formal way to get into your career path. But also, if you want to be, just using my career now, like if I was gonna get back into the workforce now and I was starting from scratch, I would have a Substack where I was writing, I would have a YouTube channel, I would use the tools that are cheap and easy to try and get reps at the thing that I wanted to do. Also, the way, just going back to something that I said earlier, is just reach out to people who are in the career that you want to be in. One of my very best friends is a writer who I really admired his work, and I was able to, reach out to him and eventually work with him. And he has been a great mentor, and now is one of my best friends. And so, not to make this overwrought, but just reach out to people who can help you, and if you are able to do the thing that you want to do, just do it and start getting the reps, because if you go to a publication and say, hey, can I write for you, the first thing they're going to ask you is, do you have any writing samples? And if your answer is no, then you won't get work.
I'm going to underscore that as well, because I've never seen a new job, a new role, a promotion, whatever it is, the best way to do that and achieve it is to already be doing it and already be doing the job that you want to be having.
So of course, a lot of you guys talk about leaving jobs for new jobs. How do you get over leaving a job behind, or the anxiety of oh, what will people think of me, or I failed there, so I'm going to I don't know if you guys ever felt that.
Yeah. I have a good piece of advice here, because I think how you leave a company, it says everything about your former company. And if they're going to be, have anything other than positivity and lightheartedness towards you, then that's their problem. That is 100% their problem. Leaving and going to a new job should be a really exciting experience for you. It should be really beautiful, congratulatory. And if you're not getting that, then problem, in my opinion.
I would say, because I've left quite a bit of jobs for a new opportunity, thankfully, most times. It's just about what is the reason that you have some sort of guilt? I think having that question with yourself is is there something left undone with that role? Is there a way that you can still impact or still do that within a different role, right? Different capacity, whether that's in your new role or, individually. And did you give it everything you had? If you can answer those questions and be confident in that, then I think that there's more than enough room for you to be able to move on into that new position. But once you leave a role, that's done. You know what I'm saying? Now it's time for what's ahead of you. And if there is some trauma related from your work, which can happen, whether it be the people you work with, the people potentially that you serve, right? Management, right? That's huge. I think that is a personal dealing that either I found from personal experience, either therapy or discussing, or maybe even having, in very rare occasions, those conversations with the people that we had those issues with, to just resolve, get all that out and move forward without that baggage is super huge. So depending on, the situation for yourself, ask those questions and
Yeah, I think just to add something to that too, the way you conduct yourself in every workplace is the only thing that's under your control. You can't, you're going to have bosses who are bad bosses. They're going to be mean people. They're going to say mean things to you. That's just a guarantee. It's an absolute certainty that you're going to run into people who are not on your same wavelength. And so the way that I've found to have longevity and opportunity in my career is to try and be kind to people and try and be gracious. When I hear something about myself that I don't like from a boss, if I don't like that boss, I just let it fall off my back and then try and move on. And so that's kept me from, when I left my last job at Road and Track magazine, which was literally the best job I could ever possibly imagine, I still see those people around in the industry a lot who I worked with, and I have a great time chatting with them. I had a lot of hang-ups about leaving and a lot of expectation that I put on myself to stay there and try and change the place, but ultimately, you have to leave when you're ready, and if you've given everything that you can to yourself and to the job, then you won't leave with any regrets.
If I can add one more thing, it's really important to not burn any bridges that you build. To kind of encapsulate that, you just, like I was saying earlier, our industry is very, very small, and it's important to just work really hard and be kind above all else, even though you're gonna want to lose your mind at times. Just save it for your pillow. I know that I'll set timers on my phone and go cry for 5 minutes. Just, make sure that you're being kind in spite of any adversity you face.
Can I mention one last thing? One last thing I want to say to that. One last thing I want to say to that is I agree for sure with not burning bridges. And there will be some folks who you just won't cross that bridge with anymore. So no, you can't put that caution tape up for some of those bridges. I've done the same, even with folks in my industry who don't have, maybe I observe don't have the best intentions. So whether it's burning a bridge, whether it's putting caution tape, whether it's putting a big boulder in between on that wooden bridge, whatever your bridge looks like, sometimes that is necessary, and it does necessitate based on how some folks move. And I'm personally, like, I've burnt some bridges that I know I will never cross. And that's just how it is. And if you can walk in that confidently, regardless of being like, hey, I'm still me, do that. But
Great
again,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
So that is the time we have for today. I want to thank our panelists here for sharing your wisdom and your stories, and everybody else for being a part of our audience. Thank you.